Right, how are we doing everybody? Welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Taking the opportunity to come outside here at Four Ashes Golf Centre. It's a beautiful but yet breezy day. So apologies if we get too much sort of wind noise coming through on the mic. I'm trying to shelter it as best as I can and take the opportunity to talk about impact. Impact is a really obviously important thing, and although it happens at a time scale that you can barely, shall we say, manipulate, what some of you might have to do is rewire your level of understanding of how you're supposed to hit the golf ball. Now, I'm seeing this a lot with online customers at the moment, where we're trying to emphasize feelings because, like I said, the idea of what they're trying to do is just a little bit wrong. To categorize this, there's different ways of hitting the golf ball, and your objective is to control the angle of attack, which means the descent angle the club is striking onto the back of the golf ball, control the club path, and obviously the rate of closure of the club face as well. If you can get those three working well, and you can consistently hit that little white ball well, then don't worry about it, okay? So I'm not that bothered if you are a little bit sort of bent with your arm. If you're happy, you're hitting it straight and you're contacting it because you compensate well, happy days, keep doing it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put it into the context for the golfer who gets a little bit sort of steep and a little bit out to in, right? Which is when the club starts to come down a little bit this sort of direction, collides, shall we say, more as the feeling or a visual of the outside part of the ball, and then impact looks a little bit sort of compensated with a excessive sort of flicky nature. Instead of, shall we suggest, the idea of being able to control the hands through the ball, get the hands leading through that hit, offering you a better sound of compression and strike on a downward fashion on the back of the ball. So the question is, how do you do it, and what do we mean about the rewiring phase? Well, first thing that I think shocks most people is how much you need to get the sense of leading with the hands coming in towards the hit. So you would take your backswing position and your hands have to feel like they get over the ball before the club head is coming down. So you really want to be exaggerating the rehearsal of making sure your hands are leading. And can you see the way that also a really good feeling that makes a big impact with golfers, again, online and with face-to-face, is that if that is my target line straight down, I want to feel as though I am pointing the shaft to the right of the target for as long as I can. Now, what will happen when you do that is that your elbow will start to move much more to the side of you. Your forearm will stay much more upward facing. But yes, I'm sure there's quite a few of you, you're going to be worried about, well, hang on, wouldn't I shank the ball from there? And second, wouldn't the club face be really open? Well, you'd be right, okay? That's why I talk a lot on the channel about rotation and talk a lot about getting hip depth to make sure that your hips are staying out of the way to facilitate the space so you can drive your elbow. Second to that, would the club face get open? Potentially, yes, right? If I move my elbow more to the side, the club face is going to be more prone to looking this way. If I drive it more in front, the club face will look more that way. But I wouldn't worry so much about that. I wouldn't be looking at reining this in until, you know, your contact is really solid each and every time. And the fact that your club face would look maybe to you a little bit more open than you'd normally get accustomed to, this is where you need to understand that the left arm would rotate to get that face square. So what you can do, so what I've done is I've rested my driver down on the ground, which is about 45 degrees-ish to the right of my intended target line, which is now represented by the iron I've placed on the ground. And that is something that you can do down the driving range. And the feeling is that you would basically swing back, you would still aim parallel to your original target line, but the feeling is that you're trying to get the shaft to match up, yes, that exaggerated to the one that we've placed upon the ground from your perspective. This is how exaggerated this feeling needs to be to influence impact in any shape at all. This is an exaggeration drill. Now again, if you're starting to think, well, okay, if I did that, how would I hit the ball? Well, you've got to remember there'd be an element of uncocking and lead arm rotationing happening very late in the swing that would stop you from literally hitting the ball over there and that would element that rotation to get the club face back to square. So these are feelings, not necessarily obviously the reality. You should, if you do this drill correctly, see a number of things. One, an improve in contact on the back of the ball. That would be the first thing. You might start, I'm not going to suggest you're going to hit it dead straight away, but you might start to spew it around a little bit, but you should eliminate, for a right-handed golfer, that left-hand side. That should go, right? And then if you do start to just keep missing it towards the right-hand side, that's when you then need to start thinking about getting that club face square, and that's when your left hand would rotate. And then you put those two together and you're really going to have a driving sensation of the trail arm and a rotation on the lead arm. And then basically you're going to almost feel as though the forearms are operating in different ways. You're going to have the right forearm which is trying to go this way, the left forearm which is going to be rotating that way. It kind of creates a squeezing sensation on the golf club, and it's going to give you that ability to not only control the low point but also get the face square. So it's a feeling. You've got to point the shaft over that way. That drives the elbow. You don't want to leave the face too open. I get it. Rotate the lead arm. That will bring the club back onto plane, but you want to do that later, not necessarily earlier, especially if you're somebody who is hampered by a poor impact position. So have a go. That'd be my suggestive drill. Work on that as a feeling. How are you going to know? Ball flight. You're going to have to do that with impact. Yeah, you can video it all you like, but you should really now be going basically off your ball flight, and that would be a massive telltale sign as to whether you are progressing in the correct sort of way. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Always appreciate thumbs up, like. Get yourself down the driving range, plonk that club down, drive that elbow. Yes, it will help you create that shallowing. I know it's not easy. I've done it with hundreds of golfers before, but you will get there. Catch up with you guys again soon.